Folks, we're having a bit of a problem here connecting. We are mm, having technical difficulties, but we should clear them soon. So please stand by. Um, Hopefully, we can clear them soon. I do have Chapelmon on the line, basically. Uh, so that's a thing. So you may see my face. Well, you see my face now. As soon as I can get, we can get Chapelmon on, we'll begin the program. So I guess he had a problem with this computer. Hopefully, it won't be much, much of a problem. At least not for long. So there's that. We can always try another service. But I wanted you guys to know because I wanted to be on time. I know that this day, this week has been problematic when it comes to schedule for various reasons. So I like to apologize for that. I don't want to skip on the show either way. Um, no, we're about to find out. Um, we can, we can get stuff together. Mm. It could be a thing where there was a Windows update last week, and that tends to mess up with a lot of things. So we're hoping that do that. Today, of course, was my time on Eschaton, the RPG, on RP Glory. I would say RPG Glory, but it's RP Glory. But um, well, the problem was that nobody showed up. Everybody was basically everybody's busy, and it could have been a two-man show, but it's an RPG, so I didn't feel comfortable doing the sort of two-man, one-man play. It's doable, but not my thing. So I decided to bow out. Um, and so um, that happened. So we canceled, and by the time we cancel again, sort of off time. So um, it's yeah. Chairman just messaged me saying that for some reason he can't connect, so he may have to either postpone or cancel. Um, which is understandable. We had a good team. Um, I'm willing. I'm gonna tell him I'm willing to wait. Willing to wait. If you can reconfigure your device permissions. Um, so we're waiting on that. Also, I guess there's a reason why I didn't want to cancel today. is because we're going to open the program with this. We're going to open the podcast with this, and this was going to be my talk on John Peter Baines, Bain, not Baines, not plural, also known as Total Biscuit. As he passed away last week. I think it was Thursday. And so I wanted to say a couple of things as part of the podcast. I guess I can make a VOD. We can go into the VOD and just talk about things. I'll do that. Since I'm here and I'm doing this, I'm just going to do that. So let me shut down things. If you hear a lot of noise in the background, sorry, it's very hot, and I have like a couple of stuff, I have fans running and all that. So let's get to it. As you all know, Total Biscuit, John Peter Bain, also known as Total Biscuit, Total Halibut, cynical Brit, passed away. He died of cancer, colon cancer, last week on Thursday. The announcement came on Thursday. We don't know the exact time. That's private, so we're just gonna leave it at that. And I mean, everybody's put videos about it, right? Talked about it. There was a nasty piece of news about at least one member of BioWare development team who said some rather unfortunate things about him. He was a controversial figure, definitely. I'm not going to deny that, and with good reason. Again, I'm not going to deny that. I would say that I agree with him in some things, but over time, I think I disagree with him and a host of other things. And politically, we sort of, my position, his position politically. Certainly, when it came to the movement, and I know I say the movement because the movement is, if you mention the name, it's like shit to flies, basically. Let's be honest. You put it out there, and you put a piece of shit out there, it's gonna attract flies, and then you can't complain about the flies that you attracted. So that's why I use the term the movement. He was more or less in favor of it, and in fact, even repeated some rather problematic statements. And I'm trying to be kind here about it. And in fact, I remember tweeting him and Eric Kane from Forbes. Eric Kane is the writer for video games for Forbes, and I said, well. Well, it's the movement doesn't need you. Sorry, the other way around. It's you don't need the movement needs you. So better not to, don't encourage them. What you're trying to say about game journalism and the state of video games does not require you to be associated, affiliated, or in any way intersect with the movement in any meaningful way. But that was their choice. I think I agree with him in that he was very much like myself, and I follow in his footsteps, a consumer advocate. The idea of, video games are art and all that, and I truly believe that. But first and foremost, they're a product as well, and to be consumed. And it behooves video game companies not to put harmful not products perhaps, but shall we say practices that harm their consumer base. Although, and again, another area we disagree with was microtransactions. He seemed to believe that microtransactions were something that could be fair and reasonable. I'm a hardliner when it comes to microtransactions. I loathe them. I would carve an exception, a very small exception, in free-to-play games, But one because if you make a game and you want to make profit, but you go with a free to play model, then you have to get some kind of remuneration, right? Get some money back. So, and I think he would have argued before that the naysayers were engaging in the slippery slope argument. I even made a video about that on my YouTube channel. But it turns out, of course, that the slippery slope argument is a fallacy only if you don't fall into the slippery slope, right? You would actually engage in it. But I would say something that I think a lot of people would say about John Peter Bain, that he was an example. He encouraged a lot of people to get into gaming, especially gaming critique and commentary. I will admit to a high degree, a very high level of professional jealousy. I really wanted to be in the co-optional podcast, and I would have loved to, sit across the table with a couple of beers, when I'm healthier and very much alive. Bain, Mr. Bain, and I say Mr. Bain because again I never met him personally, and just shoot the fat, talk about things, talk about different worldviews, and maybe talk about politics, but certainly talk about video games, and have a frank and open discussion about this. I never got the chance, and millions of his fans never got the chance to do that. I don't think he had the time anyway, even when he was healthier. There's also the issue of the public persona versus the public versus the private, right? What he projected to others versus who closer to who he was. His now widow, his former spouse, of course, Jenna Bain, talked about it on Tuesday on the co-optional podcast with Jesse Cox, Mr. Cox. And I say Dodger because I don't know her last name. And so it kind of violates my standard practice calling Mr. or Mrs. or other respectful names for people I don't know. So they'll go with Dodger in this case. I think I know her first name, but I'm not. Again, I never met her personally, and so it feels weird for me to just say, "Oh, so and so," right? And she discussed a couple of things that I'm not going to go into details. You can probably watch the VOD in the channel, Total Biscuit channel on YouTube. And if you're a subscriber, of course, you probably watch it live or the VOD on his Twitch channel. And the financial conditions and all that. But again, the truth about who we are as public personas versus who we are as private individuals is a thing. It's a distinct thing. A lot of people felt that they knew Total Biscuit. Well, the reality is people don't even know themselves, let alone others. We come to close approximations of who we are. I would ask everyone to respect the family's wishes and privacy. It is entirely up to Mrs. Bain, Jenna Bain, to disclose as little or as much as she likes. And moving forward, I know the co-optional podcast is in hiatus. It may yet surface in the future, probably in a couple of weeks, months or so. Who knows? It may never come up. It is entirely up to the members of the co-optional podcast, surviving members of the co-optional podcast. And I will respect that, of course. I would miss them. They don't come up for air again, but as a podcast. But this is also the time where one were to say, I'm sorry. But I think I'm sorry, well, it is it's a thing we say. It is as a sense of sharing our heartfelt feelings and being empathic, being a sense of empathy to those who are suffering, to living, the dead have passed. To where they have gone, we can only guess. But Instead, I will say this: thank you. That's it. So we will be working to bring back the Lesson Learned podcast ourselves. We solve these issues. Not later on tonight than tomorrow. But for now, I wanted to get that out of the way. I wanted to say that. And to thank everybody who has inched this channel closer to affiliate status. We're now at 40, big 40, so we're 10 down. Of course, viewership is also another thing. You know, people having three or more people watching at the same time. That's important as well. But I think one is tied with the other, so we will continue, of course, with our playthrough of Virgin playthrough of Dark Souls remastered for PC, the first one, Dark Souls 1. And well, I'll stop the VOD right now and restart it whenever we can and see what happens. So if we can be back in about 5 or so minutes, then we're going to postpone. But we will have a Lessons Learned podcast. If not this week, then next week, certainly. So thank you all for coming. And as I always like to say, I'll see you when we see you. Good night.